So there's some really horrifying reporting that I wanted to talk about. This comes from a news organization called PrismReports.org. They got their hand on a Department of Justice memo. And I'm going to try to figure out how I can word this without TikTok taking this video down. The Trump administration is ending protections for trans and intersex people to prevent them from being sexually assaulted in prison. The Trump administration is removing those protections. A Department of Justice memo obtained by Prism says that certain standards under the Prison Rape Elimination Act do not align with Donald Trump's January 20th anti-trans executive order. This is one of the most horrifying things that I've read in quite some time. It is just abject cruelty, bigotry, transphobia, and just flat out hate. That's the only thing that you can say about this. Reading from this article on PrismReports.org. The DOJ is dismantling protections for trans and intersex people in federal, state, and local prisons and jails and youth detention facilities. Minors, according to a government memo obtained by Prism. The memo, dated December 2nd, takes aim at existing standards of the Prison Rape Elimination Act that the department says do not comport with the Trump administration's first-day executive order that, among other things, targeted protections for trans people behind bars. The Prison Rape Elimination Act was passed in 2003, and President Barack Obama added new protections for LGBTQIA plus people to the DOJ's Prison Rape Elimination Act rulebook in 2012. The changes that are coming from the Trump administration would affect all facilities that are subject to Prison Rape Elimination Act standards, including adult prisons and jails, lockups, community confinement facilities such as halfway houses, and juvenile facilities that are operated by the DOJ, by states or local governments, or by corporate or nonprofit organizations. Facilities operated by other agencies such as the Department of Homeland Security are subject to their own detention standards. Oh, good. I'm sure Kristi Noem and Tom Homan are on top of that. The memo was sent by Tammy Gregg, G-R-E-G-G, the Principal Deputy Director of the Bureau of Justice Assistance, to all DOJ certified Prison Rape Elimination Act auditors who are only permitted to review whether facilities are following guidelines under the Act. While these changes are not yet official, this memo instructs all auditors under the Act to ignore those challenged provisions in their audits. It states that facilities, quote, shall not be held to subsections of the Prison Rape Elimination Act standards that may conflict with President Donald Trump's anti-trans executive order until the updates are finalized. Prism, the news site that I'm reading this from, obtained the memo from a certified auditor. Shauna Kijnik, a senior staff attorney with the American Civil Liberties Union's LGBTQ and HIV project, told Prism that the memo has already created confusion about what standards facilities are subject to. She said the following: the Prison Rape Elimination Act is still the law. Standards that are in place are still the law. And so this is essentially a directive to disregard the law, close quote. She also said nothing is stopping individual jurisdictions from continuing or enacting their own protections for trans, intersex, and other vulnerable populations in custody. The DOJ did not respond to a request for comment on the memo which comes after the agency removed questions about gender identity from the National Crime Victimization Survey, the Survey on Sexual Victimization, and the Survey of Inmates in Local Jails. Experts with Just Detention International, an advocacy organization based in Los Angeles that aims to end sexual abuse in detention, anticipated that an announcement finalizing the changes is expected any day. Their executive director, Linda McFarland, said in a statement that the changes will lead to increased chaos and violence and sexual violence inside prisons and jails, placing staff and incarcerated people in greater danger. She continued, the DOJ would rather see incarcerated people, including children, be sexually abused than allow trans people to express their gender identity. It is sickening. The planned changes to the Prison Rape Elimination Act specifically target rules regarding how trans and intersex people are screened for their risk of sexual abuse at a facility, as well as how facilities use that information to determine where trans and intersex prisoners are housed. The memo also threatens trans and intersex people's ability to shower separately from other prisoners. This is absolutely disgusting. This is absolutely disgusting. I mean, on his first day in office, Donald Trump issued an anti-trans executive order. His administration is already restricting gender-affirming care of any kind for individuals under the age of 19. Federal funding has been frozen to all kinds of programs to ensure that they do not promote gender ideology, which has reportedly led to some HIV programs and community health centers losing funding because they're inclusive. The administration also shut down special services for LGBTQ youth that were part of the National Suicide and Crisis Lifeline. They took away the suicide hotline for gender nonconforming and LGBTQIA youth, minors. An additional executive order proclaimed that parents who affirm their child's gender identity are committing abuse and directed law enforcement to prosecute teachers or counselors who facilitate a student's social transaction, meaning using their preferred names or pronouns. Trump issued an executive order saying that parents or teachers who go along with their minor child's preferences on pronouns and name changes are guilty of child abuse and should be arrested and prosecuted. Donald Trump has banned trans people from the military, and this just happened a couple of weeks ago at the Supreme Court. I mean, the State Department was directed to cease processing passport applications with gender-neutral X markers and visa applicants listing a gender other than their assigned gender at birth, and it has deemed these to be fraud. The Supreme Court has okayed that for now. The Department of Justice has also been instructed to help enforce sex-segregated spaces that exclude transgender people, with impacts on bathrooms, homeless shelters, and domestic violence shelters. Efforts have been made to purge government websites of references to transgender people, eliminating data collection on their health issues, and remove them from hate crime surveys. Donald Trump doesn't give two shits about trans people. This is red meat for his evangelical base and his bigoted base and his closeted male base, who hate themselves and hate trans people because trans people are allowed to live their lives the way they choose, and Trump supporters are not, by their own self-imposed prisons of whatever. It's just absolute, pure fucking hatred and bigotry to do this.